presentation today called The Ancient Code. This is part one, and then I'm going to be giving you part two right after this talk, or right after the break. So we have arrived. I see many familiar faces. How many have never heard me speak before? Many of you have never heard me speak. Okay. Wow, welcome. In 2007, I started to get a download of information. And it was day and night for 4 months long. And I was writing and writing and writing and writing. And I didn't even sleep at night. My body was sleeping, but the information was still coming in day and night. The information was called The Architecture of Reality. And after about 4 months, I said, you know, this has got to stop because I have bills to pay and I have to work. And so it sat in my computer for a long time until I had time to start going and looking at it. When I started looking at the information, it was like combing hair. I'm not a great speller and I'm not a great typist. And, you know, here I am acting like a secretary getting information down. And so as I'm just cleaning up, you know, the editing, basic editing parts of it, I would get to a sentence or a phrase or a group of information, and it wouldn't move. The sentence wouldn't make sense, or it just was out of context, or it wouldn't make sense. And as I would sit with it, pretty soon, more information would come, almost as if I was combing hair and I got to a knot in the hair, and just sitting with it was kind of starting to comb out that knot. And I would get literally anywhere from one page to one sentence to 21 pages of additional information. So it was almost like this information had nodes in it. And then that information had nodes in it. So it's like this growing branch of information. After about a year and 4 months of, I had gotten some funding so I could stay home and just start writing on this information. I started getting a lot of information visually. And part of the things you're going to see in this presentation are some of the things that I have seen visually. And it was easier for me to be able to start sharing with you the visions that I see. I'm a very practical mystic. I don't care if you're talking to the Pleiadians. Who is being helped by getting your relationships better? You know, are you being helped with getting your health better, your finances better? You know, for me, I don't care about idealistic, mamby-pamby something or other that makes you feel good, but it doesn't have any real effect in your real day-to-day life, and in your soul life in particular. So for some reason, when I was writing my description for this conference, it came out, an ancient code, and this description kind of channeled itself, and I went, wow, I never called it this ancient code. I never thought about this information that we have embedded into our systems as a code. And I'm going to sort out for you the various codes that you have, because there isn't just one. There's multiple ones. So this is your ancient code, what I'm talking about here, and this is the evolution of your consciousness code. So it helps you not only in this lifetime, it helps you in other lifetimes. So ultimately the question always comes up, so who are we? Why are we here? I want a more meaningful life. What are we here for? It just seems like there's a lot of suffering, and I can't control my kids or my husband to clean up or shut doors, or, you know, or children, or whatever it is. You know, we feel like we have a lot of annoyances in life, and we have a lot of joy in our life, and it's this kind of balance that goes back and forth. But ultimately, who are you? And the sentence that always comes up is, you're a soul having a physical experience. Now, if we are a soul having a physical experience, and this means that you not only have a physical body, but we know now that that body is really composed of energy, that we're a cloud of energy. As you get closer and closer and closer and closer in, we're actually quite fluid. We're just, in physical terms, we're just more dense here, like an ice cube, than we are in the air. Water is less dense when it's fluid than it is when it's a rock, you know, when it's frozen. Or when it's gaseous, it's even more fluid. And so we know as dowsers, we know as healers that we can work within that field and it affects the physical. We also know then, if we have a physical aspect, we have this spirit aspect then too, this soul aspect. And when I was writing the information, I was looking up definitions of consciousness, and I was finding that there were not good definitions of consciousness. The basic psychological term was you are aware that you are aware. And any other terms was pretty much all over the place. And so Gary and I were drinking margaritas around the pool in Tucson one day, and I said, and a friend was there, and I said, I'm defining consciousness. I'm defining it. You guys want to help me? And so we pulled every single word until, because I hear everything as sound, and I'm looking for just that real clear sound. Every single word in this definition was pulled until I hear this ding that feels really clear. We're like a drop in the ocean of the big sea, big consciousness. An individuated aspect from an infinite ocean of naturally organizing intelligence. So this field that we are in all the time, one drop of that field resides in this body that we call our physical dimensional reality. We call it our body. As I was writing in the Architecture of Reality, the original sentences were in here. It was, these bodies would be called the vehicle you ride. It was always the vehicle you ride. And they were even almost sarcastic, like, why do you have so much attachments to the vehicles you ride? They're like a car. When your car gets old, it goes, and gets recycled, and you're on. Why do you have so much attachment to that vehicle as if that's the only thing that you have? That's not who you are. They were really not understanding our attachments to our physical entities that we live in. So in order for me to have clear writing on this, I started calling it the body vehicle. Pretty soon it was the bio vehicle. Pretty soon it was the bodysuit. Because we wear it like a suit. And it's a temporary suit that we wear. So this soul aspect then comes in, resides, it comes in. An individuated aspect from an infinite ocean of naturally organizing intelligence. And of course, what do we call this? We call it God. Tao. The Taoists call it Tao. The Wuji, the all that is. People have a lot of names. Great Spirit. So how my mind works, I'm a scientist in my mind. I think in terms of science. My bachelor's and my master's degree are in science. I'm questioning things all the time to make it understandable. For me, mystical concepts can't just be mystical concepts. They have to make sense based on our reality while we're here. So for me, each aspect of both the physical aspect of us and the soul aspect, it has to be governed by natural law. We might think those mystical things that happen to us are kind of mystical and, we don't have any right to know those things. And I just kind of go, well, that's kind of bullshit. No way. It's just that we don't know what it is yet. We haven't discovered what it is yet. So in my earlier presentation, or in my fuller presentation on this, I actually have a whole longer section. If we have time, I'll show you the other slides that I have on this, to give you an idea of these different aspects and more information specifically about the different aspects. But right now, for the premise of this talk, I want you to know that your biosuit is actually composed of 3 different codes. When you have a computer, imagine having 3 different operating systems in your computer. Now, I have an Apple computer, so I don't have problems with my code. But many of you have PCs, and you might have problems with your code. I hear about the problems. So imagine that in your biological entity, you've got 3 completely different agendas that are going on. 3 completely different agendas. The mind, that's the green one, the intellectual part, it thinks it's always right. It can do no wrong. I have some really cool graphics that I can show you if we do have time at the end of this. And it's righteous, man. But it's always trying to collect information. And so it wants to come to conferences. It wants to read new information. The internet is like an intellectual, for the mind, it's like you have reached the nirvana of the mind. You can go and surf the web for so many things. So exciting for the mind. The physical aspect, the one down here on the bottom left, the physical aspect, it has its own running code. You don't have to tell it when to breathe and how to have your food digested. You don't have to do any of it. It has its own natural intelligence, and it is in your best interest to get to know this biological entity that you are living in and to treat it well. It needs very basic, it has very basic needs. Just like when you take care of a car, you bring it to a dealer, its needs are pretty basic. Rotate the tires, change the tires, clean it out and vacuum it out. Give it some fuel, change the oil once in a while, change the other fluids, change the belts once in a while. It's pretty basic, right? The body is literally no different. It's pretty basic. Feed it, sleep it, sex it, exercise it. You know, some basic things. Take care of it. If you put crap in your fuel for your car, it's going to run like crap. You put crap in your body, it's going to run like crap. It's really pretty basic. So if you don't have your biological entity maintenance manual, food, exercise, sleep, you know, those are pretty basic. You know, that's on you. You're not going to have a very good and well-run body. It also then puts us into the environment that we have to take care of our environment and be in harmony with our environment, because that's where the food and the resources and the air comes from in order for these biological entities to be living really well. And then you have this other thing called your emotional body. Another completely different entity here that has its own agenda. FYI, your emotional aspect is a 3-year-old that never grows up. When you have delight and you're feeling delight in your heart, that's from your emotional aspect. When you see a green bug, oh, did you see that? That's a green bug. You know, little kids, when they get just so delighted and excited, when's the last time you've been excited about a green bug or a flower? Like we were out hiking and we saw a flower with this really cool tiny caterpillar right around the core. And we actually hike with a magnifying glass so we can, like, oh, this is so cool. You know, just delight is one of the higher level vibrations that you can have in your system. That's from your emotional aspect. Well, this emotional aspect is also the 3-year-old that gives you temper tantrums. He doesn't hear me. He doesn't understand me. My boss isn't understanding me. My children aren't understanding me. I feel guilt. I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like there's all these emotional aspects are part of tapping into the universal emotions of I'm not good enough, I feel guilty, I feel like there's so many that are that I work with, and in part 2, when we go to do that, we're going to be doing some emotional and hooking on some of these aspects. That comes from the emotional aspect. If the key for the emotional aspect is that if you don't acknowledge the 3-year-old for how it's feeling, it gets noisier and noisier and noisier and more temperamental until it's kind of like having PMS all the time. And the really weird thing is that if you know how to speak to the emotional aspect of you, oh, even though you're really upset with that person and about that situation, I deeply and completely accept myself without judgment, that's only intellectual. In order for the system to know, you have to do the breath work to get new information into it. So in part 2, I am going to be going into showing you how to do the emotional unhooking process so that you can speak to the emotional mind, that when you're feeling sick to your stomach, because that's where you always feel it, emotions are in the solar plexus area. You feel sick to your stomach, that's where you're going to feel it, and you can release that kind of emotions. And then the little 3-year-old aspect of you goes, okay. Now, to tell you how serious this is about the emotional mind, I had a woman calling me yelling me, and I have to edit for the video here, her language. I hate the son of a and I want to kill him. I mean, this was a woman who was so over the top that she was literally screaming in the phone. I hate him so much that I want to kill him. Now, most counselors go to the intellectual level and try to repurpose it or talk you through it and talk you through it. Well, if you're talking, you're only talking and working at that intellectual level. You have to be able to speak down here at the solar plexus level, at the emotional level. So for her, I said, oh, okay, let's just acknowledge this. So for this woman, even though you hate the son of a and you want to kill him, I deeply and completely accept myself without judgment for having those feelings. That's pretty basic, right? I had her take a deep breath in, had her hold it for the count of 8, 9, 10. I had her hold it longer than I normally do because she was pretty out of control. That emotional body was pretty out of control. Had her breathe it out. Ha. 2 more cleansing breaths, in and out. Ha. And I said, so how do you feel? Oh, it wasn't that at all. Now see, before I had her do a number, 0 to 10, it's 100. So that emotional mind can get very noisy, and it's very easy to calm it down. I have a free handout on my website that I can tell you about where you can get this free. It's the #1 most printed out thing off of my website. How to deal with that emotional mind. All right, now, collectively, this bio aspect that you're living in, with all of their different driving codes, has a primary code, a primary directive, the prime directive, and it's survival. Your body, it's going to do things for survival. When it's young, everybody says it's like they get this haze of hormones that go over them, and they can't even think straight because the body wants to procreate. So it kind of puts you into this haze where you got to have sex, you got to have that person. I love them. I can tell you it has nothing to do with love. It has to do with the biological entity trying to do whatever it can to have sex in order to procreate. It's just what it is. So the intellectual mind, it wants to always be able to have a little more information than the person next to it. Because if I have a little more information than the person next to you, then I'm going to be able to survive better. So that's why people sound quite arrogant all the time. Well, I know this. Well, I know this. Well, I know this. And people get into it with their PhDs and their degrees and yada, yada. But it's about having more information because, again, it's being pushed for better survival. Emotionally, the system is trying to get you information because the emotions, a lot of these emotions, in the physical body are stored in the 5 yin organs. Now, this is your Chinese medicine stuff. So you have the liver. Anger is stored in the liver. You have the heart, excitability, stress, stored in the heart. You have the spleen energy, worry and anxiety. That's why you get ulcers, because it's connected to stomach energy. So that spleen energy, worry and anxiety. Kidneys, fear. I was so afraid I wet myself. It's connected to the bladder. Lungs, grief. People who have deep, deep grief and can't let go of their grief will oftentimes get asthma or lung problems. So the emotions, when they're trying to give you information, those are the emotions that the emotional body can work with. But it can also tap into the soul vibrations that we sometimes call emotions. And I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. Now, you know that this body that we have has got an energy field. We know that the soul is able to come into the body. So when the body has the energy field come into it, or the soul aspect come into it, that's called the 8 extra meridians. So this central channel that goes from the top of the head down through the perineum, that's that soft spot forward of your anus. And it's, imagine it like a ping pong ball size, or golf ball, kind of channel that goes through here. This is, when I say center, I really mean center. Center in deep into that central place and feel as if you're almost standing there. Where your power station is, in order for your soul to be in your body, and I even have something to demonstrate this. Ooh. You know, people are always talking about the third eye. I have to be enlightened. I have to pay attention to my third eye. I'm saying don't do that. People are into the heart information. Don't go there. Your power isn't there. Your power is down here in the lower belly area. And Chinese medicine knows about this. The Qigong people know about this. Meditators know about this, the ancient meditators, and it doesn't get talked about enough at all. It doesn't ever, I never hear it talked about. This is your power station right down here. Imagine that you have 3 balls of light inside of you on that central channel, on that blue line. In Qigong, they call it the 3 C's of energy. It's literally translated as sea of energy. And they're called Dantien, D-A-N-T-I-E-N, Dantien. The lower Dantien is your power station. So when you breathe into that central channel, and then when I say bring your attention down to lower Dantien, I really want you to like snap clip it in, whoom, so that you're anchored right here. Because what happens, and I'm going to go over here, Jack, for a moment. What happens is that when I was first getting information and starting to see things, I was told that we had an energy field around us that was like this. But I was looking at people and I go, all those books are lying. That's not what I'm seeing. This is what I'm seeing. People aren't anchored in. People who spent a lot of time in the 60s smoking pot and oming and spending time in their third eye area, they were really literally going into the mental realms. And there's a lot of delusional information in the mental realms. That's why it isn't sustaining. For those who really come from that emotional level, I would see their energy fields down here. It would be about the same, but it would come down a little bit farther, right in their solar plexus. Oh, it's love. Well, I can tell you the solar plexus is not love. You know, I'm going to be talking tonight about I am love. Your true essence of who you are is love. You don't give love. You give emotionalism. You want to have relationships that help you survive. Your true energy field can't get locked in unless you snap into that lower Dantien. And when you do that, all kinds of magic happens. All kinds of insights and awarenesses happen when you start connecting that soul aspect of you into your physical aspect. So this is really what that energy field looks like. Come here. So those green little people in there, that's your mind talking to you. There's some kind of a statistic, and I don't remember exactly what the statistic is, but you can hear me talk at about 50 words in a minute. Your mind goes at like 2,000 words a minute. So no matter what I'm saying, your mind is still having a whole bunch of other conversations. And then your consciousness is instantaneous knowing. Boom. So you're working at a whole nother level with that also. So if you are not in that centered place, having that connection with your soul, and, oh, I must have done something backwards here, or extra. Okay, so there you are. So that's all noisy. Now, if you don't stay in that centered place, then you're out in the noise. The green ones are your mind. The red ones are your emotions. And you're in the past, you're in the future. It's noisy. Whenever people are defensive and they're reactive, that's when you know they're not in their centered place. And the only place that you can be quiet and at peace. So many people say, I just want to find peace. I just want to be at peace. I can tell you it's very easy to get there. You literally have to know how to center yourself. Close your eyes. Cross your eyes. Really, do it. Close your eyes. Cross your eyes and feel as if you're pulling back into that central channel. And now bring your attention down to that lower Dantien area and snap it in. Snap down in. It's quiet. It's peaceful. You know, I got introduced to the Homer, or to the dowsing community because Homer Hefty had died. He was a master dowser in southern Arizona, and 12 days later showed up in my meditation circle. And this man ended up continuing to talk to me for a long time. And one of the exercises at one point that he gave me was almost as if I had a stick, and I don't have anything with me here for that. And what I would get is, because I was so afraid to do this work, to be a channel, to be talking to dead people is not something what I consider normal. So whenever I would go out, I would be in so much fear. I could feel my kidneys, my lower back tighten up. I could feel the worry and anxiety in my spleen area. I could just feel all this fear. And then I would be told, come to center. As soon as I would come to center, it was this quiet little room. Go out. Oh, it's noisy. There's fear. People are going to crucify me for this. I'm going to get, judged about this. Go into center. Whoop. Oh, I like this. This is the quiet place. You want to know that quiet place. If you want peace, I can tell you, if you don't have peace, you're out here into somebody else's business or into the nattering of your mind and your emotions. That's what it is. When you learn how to come in and center into that centered place and really bring your attention then down here to the lower dantian, snap it in, your energy field goes where it's supposed to go. Then what happens, I'm just going to continue with this line of thought here as long as I'm here. What happens is that then the soul feels comfortable to be here. In the architecture of reality, one of the most beautiful writings in there was to tell me what this area is. And what I'm pointing at, for those of you who are listening on audio, is the high heart area. The whole high heart area. They called it the soul chamber. The soul chamber. Where do you go when you feel really moved? Your hand automatically goes like this. Ah. It just automatically goes there. When you want to bring a child there. Ah. A new baby kitty. Ah. You want to bring them into that soulful place where you just feel so good. When you do that, you never have to worry about the third eye awakening or opening because it happens naturally. Your most important thing is just to stay anchored. When I was assessing people, the only people that I saw with natural energy fields were women who gardened and went to church on Sundays and had a real prayer life. It was not new age, I'm trying to figure out enlightenment people. It was that ordinariness. And they had such bright white light around them because they really stayed in that ordinariness, in that present moment, in that peacefulness, in that calm. And it doesn't mean that just because you're in that centered, peaceful place, that you still don't have challenges in your life. We have a heroin addict that we have to deal with. We're in the middle of moving. I left 14 construction people at my house yesterday. Bye, Gary. I got to go to a conference. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have stressors that are going to be happening in your life, but when you're in this peaceful, calm place, then no matter what is going on external to you, you never lose that peaceful, calm place. You still have to deal with people. You still have to set boundaries with people. You still have to make savvy financial decisions. All of that doesn't get thrown out just because you're in a calm, peaceful place. But the other beautiful thing that happens when you're in this calm, beautiful place is that insights just come naturally because you are in the soul fields now. You're in the universal fields, not just the mental realms where other people have had a lot of thought. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next one here now. The soul. We know now that we have this soul aspect that rides this biological entity, this vehicle that we ride. Last night when I was doing my introduction, I said, what's the name of my talk again? Because normally I call it the sacred partnership. You want to develop a relationship between the needs of your physical aspect and what its gifts are. It knows how to get things done here. And the needs of the soul aspect. The prime directive of soul, and this is something you want to remember. I've taken some other slides out, so I haven't gotten it on here, but I want to give it to you. The prime directive of the bodysuit was what? Survival. Always know that it's doing whatever it's doing for survival. It gives you a lot more compassion when you're working with somebody. Oh, they're acting that way because they're trying to survive. Okay? The soul's aspect, the soul's prime directive is to experience, to create. To experience, to create. Your soul, think of it like a happy puppy. Always happy to see you. Always happy for, if you got ideas, it wants to help create ideas with you. It has three aspects to it also. And I haven't ever created a graphic for it. It has that aspect that is locked into the physical body that when you leave and when you die, oh, their spirit has left. You hear that. You say that. It also has the aspect of itself that is not locked into the physical body at all. It can go and travel. So I'm talking to my soul aspect all the time. I need to have da-da-da-da-da. Next thing I know, by coincidence, through the most amazing series of how things had to come about, I had this relationship with somebody that brings me to China, to teach this work. The bizarrest things happen. So when you feel like you want to do something, push it back at your soul. Well, if you want me to go to Tibet, I need $5,000 to go. So you arrange that. And it can arrange things around the background. And because the physical body, it can only stay right here. It can't go anywhere. You have an aspect of yourself that is not limited to the physical world. It can go and it can say, hey, you've been wanting to meet a new friend. You're going to that Dowsers conference. Well, there's another friend that's going to be at the Dowsers conference. Your energies are really awesome together. Yeah, let's see if we can just get you both at the same table at dinner time. You know what I'm saying? It just arranges those kind of things where you're moving in ways that you don't even know that you're moving in order to bring magical things about. But that's when you have that sacred partnership and you work with your soul aspect. So you want that relationship. All right, come on. I'm afraid to do it because I don't know what's coming next. Oh, yes, there were three. Sorry. Okay, the third aspect is the absolute objective aspect. When I do inner journey traveling, out-of-body experience traveling, I have the consciousness and the mind that's here into this physical reality that is observing, and I step out of this body and I go traveling into other realms. I have the aspect that is traveling in those other realms, but I've always got something there that's observing it all. It's the absolute objective observer. So that's your three aspects of soul then. The part that's physically in, the part that can go and line up information for you, get information for you, help you, and then the part that's just always the watcher, the observer aspect. Now in this sacred partnership aspect, you want to know kind of how they both work. The physical aspect, who's that comedian who get her done? Do you guys know who that is? Larry the Cable Guy. Get her done. Okay, your body is get her done. It knows how to live in this world. It knows how to survive in this world. It knows how to get things done in this world. I can tell you the soul has no clue. It will give you ideas and ideas and ideas and ideas and ideas. I have a list of 45 assignments, and I have to arrange them in the order that I think is going to be most beneficial to the people that I'm presenting to. Because the soul can say, well, write a book about this, or do a video about this. It has no clue what video production is and all the words that it takes to do that, and voiceovers and writing and the time it takes. It has no clue. So it'll always give you ideas. Sometimes people say, well, God wants me to do this. God wants me to do that. Well, you have to understand the whole idea of what God is. And if I have time, I'll give you the 3 levels of consciousness so you understand the 2 different God concepts here. But it's really this soul aspect that It's got a play toy. Your vehicle is like a sports car. I get to play. I get to go places. I get to do things. It wants to create. It wants to experience through you. In the first Homer book that I wrote, the very first part it was saying in there, find joy and really experience joy, but if you're into suffering, really do your suffering. Do it big, because it's just there to experience, to create. You know, so you have to be able to set limits with the soul. I literally had to negotiate with my soul when I was writing my third book. I was living in my little ashram for 2 weeks, and I would literally eat and sleep whenever I was in my cycle. It was not a normal cycle at all. I was just working until I was just collapsing. And at one point, my soul aspect was just channeling stuff through to get information through, and my physical body was so exhausted. I just said, soul, you need to be quiet now. This body needs to sleep. So I go up into my little bed, and I'm absolutely exhausted. I'm laying there, and I'm getting these ideas. They're brilliant ideas. Soul, I'm telling you, if you want this book done and you want this information out, you need to shut up. I need 20 minutes. You give me 20 minutes, and I'll be back on the case. 20 minutes. All of a sudden, dead silence. Bam. I fell asleep. Pretty soon, I hear music, like really soft music. And it's getting louder and louder and louder. So as I'm waking up to this soft music, oh, okay, coming back online, and I look at my clock. It had been exactly 20 minutes. So you can negotiate with your system to say what the needs of the physical body is. If you have a health need, soul, you know, if you want to go to Egypt and climb those pyramids, well, you better get my knee better. So send me resources to get me my knee better or my health better or, you know, money or whatever it is. Put it back on the soul aspect. So in the physical reality, it knows how to get stuff done here, and you need to inform the soul what that is, what it needs. The soul aspect, though, gives it meaning, gives it purpose. You want to feel like you're doing more than just mundane work. It's why you come to conferences like this, so you can get inspired. Because just doing dishes and doing laundry and taking care of the car, you know, it's kind of boring. We need more than that. So the soul aspect gives you that purpose and meaning. So the body, then, you need to learn skills and techniques. If you don't know something, go figure it out. Learn how to do it. And if you want to learn how to do it really well, if you learn how to stay in that centered place, because remember, that's where the soul resides, is in that centered channel. That's how it gets information out to you through your system, is those 8 extra meridians. And this core one is really important. It can help you master, can help you be in that centeredness and help you master something. So that's the difference between somebody who can technically play the piano and somebody who plays it with passion. It's someone who does artwork, but when you look at a piece of artwork, you feel passion. That's the difference, is when that sacred partnership is up. So if you imagine that the body is just a physical flute, the soul is the breath. You can't do anything with just the flute. It takes this partnership. It takes the breath to blow through the flute to create music. So it gives you an idea of that. And do you see what I have right down here? That is your power station. Those Celtic crosses that you see, it is a reminder of where is your power station, right here. How do you move into your centered place? One breath. I am telling you, one breath. When I had a tornado coming toward my house, I did not have time to say, gee, tornado, can you wait 20 minutes? I have to go to my meditation room, and I have to go and om for a little while and light my incense and light my candles and get into a really happy, good feeling and then feel like you're coming online. Life isn't like that. You need to be able to go, whoom, in power now. Snap in. I'm ready. And you hold your field, and then you create the reality that you want from there. You must be able to do that. So that cross circle there, right in that lower dantian, get little tattoos, little stickers. Just remember, this is your power station. Now, there is one part of the code that is, I think, the most important part of the code. When I was writing in the, let me get this out so it's not making noise here. When I was writing on the architecture of reality, I was getting this information on memory field, soul field, energy field. So I'm finally stopped. I'm enough aware in my trance state to say, you know, what is this memory field, energy field? And somebody was actually like answering me and said, memory field, energy field, same, but different. I said, okay, who's ever answering? That is not very helpful. How is this same but different? Because I didn't have the concept, and if your system doesn't have a concept, it's harder to get information through. I sat for 2 weeks just meditating on what is this, and going back, re-looking at information where it had said, sometimes it would say energy field, sometimes it would say memory field, and they would interchange memory field and soul field. They would interchange them. And I would read them, and I just, again, was just sitting with it and sitting with it, saying, I'm not moving on until I get some clarity on this. What I finally got is that just like the physical body has an energy field, the soul has an energy field. It is collecting data. Go. It's collecting data. So remember that aspect that I said is the observer? It's just observing? I think it's the recorder. When I went to write my third book on how to clear these fields, do you need to change tapes? No, you're good? Okay. My editor said, well, people don't know what a soul field is. You better write it right on the inside cover of the book so people can know. And it says it the best here, so I'm just going to read it here. You're probably wondering what a soul field is. So before you begin to read and assimilate what's inside the covers of this book, let me explain. You are a soul having a physical experience. While your soul rides your bodysuit, it records every moment of your life. And when the body dies, the soul departs, taking with it all its memories. In truth, you could be called a soul. You could call the soul a data collection and storage entity. That is not very mystical sounding, is it? A data collection and storage entity. So now you are not only a soul riding a bodysuit, but a soul riding a bodysuit who came in with baggage, with stored memories. This is called the soul field or memory field. Where do we come up with these memories, you know, that are around us? You know, it has never been logical to me until I got this information. It gives you your unique and distinct personality. Even as a newborn with a clean slate, so to speak, your stored memories, the good, the bad, and the ugly, lay the foundation of your soul field in this lifetime. It is the ugly memories we are concerned with here because these damage the soul by creating, and these are things I have seen in the energy field, tears, knots, holes, and debris in the soul field. Every time the soul field is damaged, it means that there's less of our true nature available. As we lose access to aspects of our soul, we become reactive and defensive about the things we do and the decisions we make, and then we wonder at the suffering we see in the world that we ourselves have created. Reactive and defensive beings blame God, Christians, Muslims, Jews, politicians, bankers, Wall Street black suits, anyone and everyone but themselves. This leads to wars of hatred and irrational prejudice. In order to heal the world and stop this pattern of outward blame, we must first heal ourselves. We must heal our soul field and regain access to our whole self. In essence, this means that we release the bad and the ugly and accept the wisdom stored in the memory field of our soul from all past experiences. So that was the motivation when I was getting the information on the architecture of reality to put together ways that you can clear this field. So this key aspect of the soul, how many of you know about an energy field for the soul? It just makes sense once I got the information. So we are not only a soul now that is here to experience and create, and it's really quite innocent. I never know when I have to push the next one here. All those pops that you saw there, all those pops are the really strong memories. I was in China teaching this, and they said, well, what's the memories that make up our soul field? What do you remember about your life in this lifetime? If you have to go back and remember what you have to remember about this lifetime, what do you remember? Your deep loves and your deep hatreds, your deep disappointments in yourself. You know, these are the things that kind of stand out when you go through your life. So here you are with your 3 already operating system in your biological entity, your biological suit. Here's your soul aspect that's like a happy puppy. So imagine the happy puppy with 3 cats trying to control all of that. And then you come in with experiences that you have had from thousands and thousands and thousands of lifetimes. You don't know that it's there. We aren't taught that we come in with something already. And it's like this shadow that we carry with us that we don't even know that we are carrying. And so I believe that this is the primary operating system for all those repeating patterns that we can't figure out, that we go to counseling for, that we can figure out the physical stuff a lot of times, and the emotional stuff and the intellectual stuff. But I spent 10 years as a healer and working with cancer patients, and I can tell you that there was always this huge X factor. I called it the X factor because there was always this illogical piece that people who were doing everything right would die or have worse symptoms. People who were doing everything wrong and still smoking and drinking, they'd still keep living. I mean, it was just so bizarre that you could have such extremes. It wasn't logical to me. There was something else that was going on. So this memory field then that you come in with starts to explain now some of the natural abilities that come in, your prodigies and your geniuses and your virtuosos. You know, it's so wonderful to have YouTube and Vimeo now where you can go and watch these young children coming in with these extraordinary experiences and gifts that they just come in with it. It also gives you your interests. Why are you interested in dowsing? Why are you interested in healing? Or why do you come to conferences like this? It gives you your interest in your career, in your hobbies, in particular locations. You might have always had a burning desire you have to go to Egypt, or a burning desire to go somewhere, and you don't understand why it is. It could simply be residual information from past information, from another lifetime that you want to get back to. Maybe you made a vow, I want to get back to someone that you loved in another lifetime or something. I actually see that in my sessions, my readings with people. So the things that get imprinted are the strong emotions that are both positive and negative. My son, my oldest son, has these loathings, or at the time he had these loathing feelings for his in-laws. Loathing. And I would say to him, because he would energize it so strongly, I'd say, be really careful and just surrender and be neutral. Be neutral about your relationship with your in-laws. But he would be loathing about them. And I'd say, honey, if you're not going to be neutral with them, what's going to happen is this strong emotion that you are amping up and feeding is creating these really strong hooks between you two. And you're going to come into another lifetime and you're going to be their kid or a spouse to them, or somehow you're going to be tied into these relationships. So I'm always warning people, when you fall in love instantaneously, beware. You don't know if it was because it was a really good love relationship in another lifetime or because you are sworn enemies. And those strong magnetic connections snap you together. And you might go, wow, I never saw that happening. I never saw that coming in. So these strong connections create some of the foundation for your relationships in your next lifetimes. It also gives you your familiarity with people. You come to a dowsing conference, and you know, what do I keep hearing around here? It's like coming to a family reunion. Hi, everybody. You get to know where your peeps are, people that you're familiar with and you feel good with. It gives you a familiarity with people and things. You might even have past life visions on things. I teach conscious manifesting. I think it's one of the most important things that I teach. And in this conscious manifesting, I know that when you take a particular formula, anchor it down into your system and let it go, you're creating one of these hooks. You're creating one of these. This is where your forever and never vows and promises get made. I've always said I want to go and teach this information in Palestine and Israel because they make the most insane vows and promises. The vows and promises they make is, I'm going to hate you and war with you in this lifetime and in all lifetimes until there are no more Jews on this planet. You know, that kind of thing. They are not even knowing that they are going to come into another lifetime with hate, and they don't even realize where that hatred is coming from. They're going to pull themselves into those kind of conflict areas and situations. How do we heal our planet? Stop praying for peace for people. I can tell you that isn't going to do much good, praying for peace for them. What you do is you start praying for them and doing work with them, clearing that soul field. When I do sacred forgiveness ceremony at my lotus flower retreats, I'm doing one next week down in Sedona. When I'm doing the sacred forgiveness ceremony, I can tell you that I have more people from the other side who come in than who are physically in my events. Even when I do sacred, no matter how many people are there, we do it the first time for ourselves. We do it the second time, inviting those who are unseen to us. I tell people, if you're going to have a baby coming in, you do a sacred forgiveness ceremony. You invite the spirit of that baby coming in. Let's get you cleaned out before you come in here. I'm thinking that doing the sacred forgiveness ceremony and the other things that I have for tools that I have, when somebody is leaving, it's like your last rites. You're leaving? Let's get you cleared out. And then other people are going, can I just get cleared out right now? Yes, you can. You can release those vows and promises to clear that out. Wait on the questions for a moment. So just to give you a quick review of this memory field then, for the most part, people are pretty decent, good people. They live, they die, they have their life, they have their children, their grandchildren, they do whatever they do. And we're pretty, we're okay. You have some that come in that are enhanced. You guys are probably got more enhanced energy fields because you're really developing that sacred partnership. When you do dowsing, you have to go into that centered place or you can't get good dowsing results. You have to. You're learning to work within a bigger field. Any skill that you learn in this lifetime, do it. If you've always wanted to learn how to play piano, start doing it because I'm telling you, things that you start imprinting that is beautiful in your field and you want beauty in your field, that isn't lost. Those vibrations go with you. Learning to sing, finding joy, working with children, whatever it is that you want to do that you have a passion to do, go and do it because it enhances your energy field. It makes it stronger. And it makes you more conscious and aware when you're coming back in again, if you choose to come back in again. And then you know about people that you get around them and you don't want to be around them. Bad juju. And this is where you get that stuck energy and behavioral patterns. I said that we work with a heroin addict in the family. Bad juju. It's like they vibrate to the negative. They vibrate to a particular darkness and self-talk and negativity. And doing that really isolates you from your soul aspect. So here you are with your mind, if you were just your physical entity body, this is what you look like. Stay in that centered place. It makes it much easier. Then you have this memory field. So you are actually dealing with two different energy fields here. Now I want to show you what this looks like in practical application. You know, that big burning question, how do I clear my soul field? How many of you are wanting to know that? Yeah, I want to release those vows and promises that I made that I'm not conscious about. I can tell you that common ones I get are vows of poverty, religious vows. When I did a sacred forgiveness ceremony for the Healing Touch International Conference, holy camoly, there were your witches that got burned at the stake, man. There was a tough audience because they had a lot of damage in their field being harmed for being healers. And here it was Healing Touch International. People who still naturally want to go back and work with being healers because it's who they are, it's who they come in with, and yet at the same time come in with these deep-seated fears that they don't understand. So I'm going to tell you the story about Murray. I asked Murray to come into my office one day, and I'm so thrilled to be able to have this visually now. Murray was a man who had a very strange skin cancer. He was doing everything right. He had the best attitude. He had the best spirit. He had the best smile. But he had this weird skin cancer that his skin kept literally peeling off. In Tucson, he would wear, in the summertime, he would wear a winter jacket and a winter ski hat. He always had even eyelashes that were flaking all the time. And he smelled terrible because you know how a little bit of lavender oil goes a long ways? But the only thing he could do to help his body feel anywhere remotely decent was to drench his whole body in lavender oil. He wore compression socks and compression armbands. He was in my Qigong class. He was dedicated in making sure his energy fields and his energy streams were clear. He was completely clear that way. So, you know, talk about the X factor. What's up? Something else is going on in this story. So I said, Murray, you know, you're doing everything right. This isn't logical. Why don't you come to my office and let me see if I can do a session on you just to see what comes up. I never know what's going to come up, but let's see what's going to come up. So Murray, as he's in my office, I go and I sink in and I see this tiny, tiny little image of him in another lifetime with a T-detonation device. I have to pull it closer so I can even see what it is. It was so tiny. Pulled it closer. I see, just a second here. I see him push it down, and there's an explosion, and 30 men, women, and children were killed. After I see this, pay attention to the bottom right. I see a little egg shape show up, and another one, and another one, and another one. There were 30 of them, but 2 were different, and one egg shape was connected to him in this lifetime. Was that the coolest graphic or what? This is my vision that I'm seeing, and I get to share it with you guys. So, of course, I'm curious as to, 30 eggs. Well, it must have been something to do with those 30 men, women, and children that got killed, but why are 2 of them different? So I bring my attention into the first one, and boom, I am no longer in my office. I am in a barn. It looks like it's sometime before child labor laws in Europe. It was a 2-story barn, looked like a factory, packed with women and children, very poor conditions. He was probably 5 or 6 years old, looked more like he was about 4 years old because he was so malnourished. They locked the barn at night so that their workers wouldn't run away. The barn had a fire. He died. Burns. Okay. Well, that's weird. Burns in that lifetime, weird skin disease in this lifetime. Let me go to the second egg. Bring my attention into the second egg. Boom. I can't remember the details of this one as much. I should write these things down when I get them. But he was doing something where something fell off the stove. Some kind of liquid fell off the stove. In this lifetime, he was like 9, 10. Again, he looked like he was 7 or 8 just because he was so malnourished. And all the liquid fell on top of him. Died. Oh, 2 other eggs. They're already done. They look like their past lives. Weird skin kind of things. And something connected with his weird skin condition in this lifetime. I'm not getting any information about something for him to do. Nothing is coming to me. No acupuncture, no nothing. Nothing's coming. So I said, Murray, I got to go talk to the big guys. And so when I do that, I just leave the vision that I'm seeing, leave Murray, I change my vibration, and I go into the stillness, into the void. And I say, I have before me this beautiful man. I'm not getting any information to help him. He needs grace. I'm asking for grace for this man. because he really was just this beautiful person. And I hear this Charlton Heston voice. So bestow it. I mean, it was beautiful, you know? And I go, what? And I hear, so bestow it. Again, in this beautiful, deep voice. At some point, I'm going to have a man who's got a really nice, deep voice, and I'm going to record it, and I'm going to boom it in the room so you can hear what I was hearing. And I said, no. I heard what you said, but what does it mean? We don't talk like that anymore, by the way. So bestowing something doesn't mean anything to me. What do you mean by this? And I hear again in this very beautiful, deep voice. When a person has a sincere heart, they can ask forgiveness to those that they feel that they have done real or perceived harm to, and it shall be given. I'm repeating to Murray in my office what it is that I'm seeing, and this vision pops back up again. Murray bursts into tears, and he starts asking for forgiveness from these 30 men, women, and children. Something in his heart resonated within him. Some kind of memory was there enough for him to just burst into tears and start begging for forgiveness from all of these people. I was astounded because this is what I was seeing. I was seeing what looked like a fork with all these tines that were all of a sudden connected. It took me a while to figure out that it was his higher self, that was that sincere heart place. His higher self, his soul aspect self, was going in to another place. That sincere heart place is really critical. Pay attention to that bottom right-hand egg. This is what I started seeing. As he was asking for forgiveness, I saw that the egg got dropped. It burnt like a fuse. That's literally what it looked like, and it disappeared. And then the next one. It dropped one at a time. The fuse burned, disappeared. I couldn't do that for 27 times on here. It would take too long on the graphics, so I just am doing a bunch of them in groups, but one at a time. It would drop that connection to Murray. Remember I said you get these cords connected between you and another person. And then all of a sudden, all that was left was the two that were inert and then the one that was connected to this lifetime. Because I teach conscious manifesting, when I was 18 years old, I spent 9 months in prayer, fasting, and meditation. Not what most 18-year-olds are doing in America, in Minnesota. And I learned how to hold my mind in a particular way that when I let it go, things would manifest. Jobs, people, weather. I mean, I do a whole session just on that. So I knew that in order for Murray to have created this kind of a life pattern for himself, that he had to have used that manifestation process and locked something in for himself. I knew to go back to the moment when, this way I have to point, when he was at that T-detonation device and he realized that 30 men, women, and children were killed. And I went back then as he's sitting in my office and I go, what did you do at that time, Murray? What did you do? Because when you're in really a deep time of pain and suffering, be very careful what you do with your emotions and your power. Because you're in present time at that moment and you're in power then. And when you're in really scared, really afraid, or really deeply emotional, that's when you're in power. You ought to be very careful what you do. And I heard what he said. He said, I can never forgive myself until I pay for those 30 lives. I can never forgive myself until I pay for those 30 lives. Think of the implications of this. I always thought karma is if you eat too much ice cream, you're going to have a fat butt. I realized that there was such a thing as karma, but it isn't put on you by anybody. It's the agreements and promises that you make yourself. Think of healers. If they're just working on Murray and his physical body, it's Band-Aids. you've got to work at the soul level. So our time is coming short here, so I'm going to keep moving along here to show you. But what happens is that Murray created for himself, he damaged his soul field. That got imprinted into his memory field that comes back with a code that says you need to have this kind of misery for 30 additional lifetimes so that you can forgive yourself. This was his own pre-programmed code that he put in. So what happens is that he goes, and that you've got your soul aspect that's riding that. The soul carries that memory, carries that shadow aspect with. When he moved to a sincere place in his heart, that aspect can do that sincere-hearted place, could do that forgiveness work. That soul, that shadow part came with. It's only from that soul aspect and that sincere place can you do it. And when he did the forgiveness work, that stuff was cleared out. Now I'm going to show you this again because it's just so important to see that. So you've got you think you're just a physical body walking around, but you're not. You have that soul aspect that's carrying those memories. His happened to be damaged when he went to the sincere place in his heart. The spirits always tell me, if you don't go to a sincere place in your heart, don't bother to do their work. You're just talking, blah, blah, blah. It carried the shadow memory with. He did the forgiveness work, and then it was able to clear him. People are always asking the question, so what happened with Murray? Murray finished his PhD program. He went back to Colorado, healed his damaged relationship with his father, and he died peacefully. But he died with peace in his heart. It was the first time he ever felt peaceful. So think of all the Band-Aid kind of stuff you try to do with dowsing and all of that. When you clear at that soul level, vows and promises that you've made that you don't even know, you can clear yourself out so that you can actually come back here to be clear. So in the spring of 2010, as I was working with the Architecture of Reality, I would have been working with the Architecture of Reality now for about a year and 4 months and creating some of these graphics on here. The spirits were telling me, it's time to put your forgiveness work together that we've given you, the releasing vows and promises that no longer serve you work together with you, and it's time to reprogram your system with your conscious manifesting statements. Put that all together. For 3 days, it was like a tape in my head. Put them together, put them together, put them together. And it's like, yes, I know, I am doing that. I'm putting it together. And it was the result of me writing the third book that I did. My third book was supposed to have been the Architecture of Reality, that huge download that I have that's still sitting in my computer. But this is the practical application of it, to know about that soul field and to be able to clear that out, your stuff out. And this is what we're going to be doing in part 2 here. Now, and then here's the book that gives you the practices and the statements for how to clear out your soul field. So I want to review this now. You are coded in your physical body. So some of that code that comes in with your physical body is some of your genetics that you have to deal with, and you just got to deal with them. You are coded with your mind to gather and collect information. You are coded in your emotions to be able to sense and feel and have a way of having feeling and getting information to your intellectual and your body mind. That's that your emotions will do that at the lower level. I didn't have time to go into the higher level of vibrations. The soul comes in with its own prime directive. What was it? To experience, to create. The bodysuit has got survival, yes. The soul, its prime directive is what? To experience and create. And then you come in with your soul field. And this is your data collection and storage aspect of you. It will store those strong hatreds, those strong loves, and you want to be able to clear it all out. Now, we have 3 minutes to take questions. I'm just going to repeat the questions if you don't get somebody there. And make sure you ask a question.
Hi there, Ellie.
Hi there.
Thanks so much for an excellent talk. Really superb. The question I have is, in the middle of the talk, you mentioned the integrated spiritual being, and you you said it had 3 things. One was mastery and centeredness. I was wondering if you could tell me the other 2 and just quickly elaborate on those 3 parts of the integrated spiritual being.
Well, ultimately, what I was trying to say with that slide is that your physical body knows how to get things done in the world. So when the soul has ideas for you, let it help you get things done in the world. But the body, so many people that I run into in the New Age community, they just want to think it and idealize it. They don't actually want to get her done. Oh, I want to write that book. And they'll talk about years about doing it, but they don't ever want to really do the work of getting her done. And the sacred partnership and having that integrated partnership is really working with, the body is here, you're here to have an experience, the soul is riding it, why not work with this relationship? I spend a lot of time on this in my 5-day lotus flower retreat. And so, you know, and in a 1 hour and 15-minute talk, I don't have time to put what I can put in and have you work with and experience what I can in the retreats. And so ultimately, that's what I was trying to say with that.
What are the 2 other?
What were the other 2? Well, the other one, what was it? So one, oh, it gives you mastery and centeredness. Is that the one that you had?
Mastery and centeredness.
It gives you meaning and purpose.
Sorry, say again.
Meaning and purpose. The soul gives you meaning. And then it's like the breath to the flute. That was the 3rd one. And there was a question way in the back. You're welcome. Thank you. And he's been asking since about halfway through the talk.
You were talking about clearing souls as they go out, as they're ready to depart. How do you do that with someone who is senile at the time?
Are you coming to my talk tonight on the I Am Love? Oh, yeah, I'm going to be talking somewhat about that tonight in the talk because Mindra was very, very fragile at the end. She couldn't do the breath work like what we're going to do in the next session and that. But even just reading the words, for people who are very in their mind, even the person who edited this for me, even in her mind, she was like, I can never do stuff. But she was changing, even just reading the words. When I was reading the words for Mindra, she didn't do the breath work or anything. It was shifting her and changing her, just reading the words to her. So that's the short answer. Anything else? Any other questions? All right, so I have just a couple of announcements. One, I do have a Lotus Flower retreat that is coming up. I'm going to be there on the 12th, and it's starting on the 13th, right down here in Sedona. I do have one person, if this is calling to your heart, I have one person who's needing a roommate, a female, who's coming in from England. And so that would give you half the room rates. It's staying at Poco Diablo Resort, which is really beautiful. To delve in deeper into this work. And we do the practice every day. At some point, I'm wanting to, once a month, do this practice that we're going to be doing in the next session, like on Skype or on some kind of a conference call once a month. I'm going to be living in Prescott now. We are just moving there. And so I want to be able on a regular basis to either come to Sedona or come to an area and do the practice and have people start groups to just do the practices for people who are working with hospice groups, to be able to just do the practices. For anybody who is a healer, it just feels like it is a must-be to learn how to do this, because if you want to work with them, to help with them physically, you first must have them at a soul level. I want to thank you for your time and your love, and welcome again to the conference. And that is your lessons for this morning.